Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, if you're in any kind of leadership role right now, you already know the reality. The modern executive's world is an absolute pressure cooker. We're talking endless emails, back-to-back meetings, and this relentless, exhausting demand to deliver results yesterday. But right in the middle of that high-stakes environment, there is a massive misconception about what effective leadership actually looks like. Hustle. Decide right now. Move fast, break things, keep that momentum alive, and whatever you do, never ever slow down. Is leading really just all go all the time? We kind of default to this frantic mentality, right? We convince ourselves that if we aren't in a state of constant frenetic motion, we just aren't leading. But let's challenge that premise right out of the gate. Is running yourself ragged actually the smartest approach to leading a team?
Well, let's dive right into the source material today, because it hits us with a pretty tough truth. If you're stuck in an endless loop of just reacting to things, you are literally stripping yourself of the single most critical ingredient for sustainable success. You see, we naturally wire our brains to think that action automatically equals progress. But pure, unfiltered action without actual strategy, that quickly becomes a massive blind spot.
And that brings us to the absolute golden nugget of today's source material. The text says, real leaders know when to stop. Seriously, just let that monumental paradigm shift sink in for a second. Stopping is not a sign of weakness. It's not a delay. It is a fundamental, absolutely required leadership skill.
Our source powerfully defines this concept as pause power. Basically, it's the strategic act of stopping to gain perspective before you take action. See, when you hit pause, you aren't quitting or giving up. You are instantly granting yourself this vital perspective that is completely invisible when you're rushing around. You step out of that reactive blur and you step right into strategic clarity. Because let's face it, when your brain is running at max capacity just trying to survive the next urgent email, it simply cannot process complex strategy. That pause creates the cognitive breathing room you need to actually lead instead of just putting out fires.
The source uses a really fantastic metaphor for this that I just love. Think of it exactly like taking a deep, calming breath right before jumping into a pool. You don't just sprint blindly and flail your way into the deep end, do you? No, you stand at the edge, you plant your feet firmly, you survey the water, you take a slow, calm breath, and only then do you execute the jump.
Because think about the alternative. We are talking about belly flops versus smooth dives here. When you rush in blindly without taking that breath, you get the leadership equivalent of a massive belly flop. It's chaotic, it's incredibly messy, it stings, and honestly, everyone watching is just wincing on your behalf. We've all seen a manager execute a painful corporate belly flop, right? But when you apply that pause power, you get the smooth dive. It's graceful, it's calculated, and you get maximum impact with minimal splash.
Okay, so let's look at how this actually translates into tangible outcomes in your day-to-day. According to the source, hitting the brakes gives you 3 critical advantages. You get to spot problems, hear your team, and avoid those dreaded oops moments. Let's break these down one by one.
Number 1, you spot problems. Look, when you are moving at 100 miles an hour, everything is just a blur. Intentional stillness is practically the only way to accurately see the obstacles coming up on the horizon. Think about a huge project launch. If you're just executing blindly and pushing your team to hit some arbitrary deadline, you are going to completely miss the glaring supply chain flaw or that shifting market trend that's sitting right in front of you. You might actually succeed in launching a product that's already obsolete. You absolutely need a stationary vantage point to survey the landscape before you accidentally crash your entire project into a brick wall. Moving on to number 2, you can finally hear your team. The sheer volume of constant motion, the stress, the rapid-fire commands, those endless back-to-back Zoom calls, it literally drowns out the people around you. Your team could be waving massive red flags, but when you're in a rush, a hesitant email or some concerned body language goes completely unnoticed. An employee might tell you, sure, I think we can do this, but if you aren't pausing to genuinely listen to the tone of their voice, you are going to miss the extreme doubt hiding behind their words. By pausing, you turn down the volume of your own momentum so you can tune into the vital insights your team is practically begging you to hear.
And number 3, you avoid those massive oops moments. Take a quick second to relate to this, because we have all been there. The disastrous reply all sent in the heat of the moment. The rushed vendor decision that backfired spectacularly. Or maybe approving a budget just because you didn't want to read the fine print at 6 p.m. on a Friday. Think about how many of those incredibly painful, highly avoidable headaches could have been entirely prevented if you had just stopped for 5 seconds to think. Pausing is your ultimate defense against unforced errors.
It gives your logical brain just enough time to catch up with your stressed-out reflexes.
So bringing it all together, it really comes down to this core thesis: leading faster versus leading smarter. Brute force and constant acceleration might feel like progress in the moment, but a lot of times it's just a total illusion. True strategic intelligence comes from knowing exactly when to deploy your momentum and exactly when to withhold it. Because your goal as a leader isn't just to cross the finish line first, right? It's to navigate the smartest possible route to get there. Pausing ensures you're actually climbing the right mountain instead of just climbing the wrong one at record speed.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from today's explainer. I want you to take a hard look at your own daily habits. The next time the pressure is really on, and you feel that overwhelming, frantic urge to just rush forward and react, will you let the momentum control you, or will you have the courage to hit pause? Thanks so much for diving into this with me today. And remember, your greatest power as a leader might just be your brakes.